Well, I hope you guys are all ready for another Mentorship Monday. Good morning from California, for me at least. Anthony Gerasi, CEO and co-founder of Stratus Financial. And with me, we've got Tammy Barlette. And she's a retired Air Force pilot who's flown multiple aircraft, including the T-37 Tweet, the T-38 Talon, A-10 Warthog, MQ-1 Predator, and MQ-9 Reaper. She has accumulated more than 3,000 total flying hours and over 1,500 hours of combat support time, assisting and protecting troops on the ground in both Iraq and Afghanistan. In addition to speaking, Tammy is the founder of Athena's Voice, a speaking collective featuring female pilots from around the United States. She's the founder and CEO of Crosscheck Mental Performance Training and holds a master's degree in Christian ministry. Tammy is married to a Border Patrol agent, has 3 children, and resides in Tucson, Arizona. Please welcome Tammy Barlette, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. It was an honor. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it. So with that, we'll just get right into it. When I was 28 years old, I found myself in the skies over the peninsula of South Korea, essentially operating a crippled flying tank that carried explosives. Not exactly a situation most people find themselves in. So how did I get myself here? As a young Air Force pilot, I was selected to fly the A-10 Warthog. The A-10 is a single-seat attack aircraft, and its primary role is to provide lethal support to our troops on the ground. If our soldiers find themselves under attack and they need help, who do they call in? The A-10s. It carries a multitude of weapons, bombs, missiles, rockets. In fact, the entire aircraft is actually built around a 20-foot gun that holds 1,170 30-millimeter rounds. In the cockpit, it sits in a titanium tub to protect the pilot from enemy fire. Pretty cool, huh? Oh, maybe that's an understatement. And I'm sure there's some of you out there thinking to yourself, that sounds awesome. I want to do that job. And it is cool. It's super cool and so unique. In fact, it is so unique that most people have never actually met a fighter pilot. And more often than not, when I tell people what I did for a living, they say this to me. You are a, think about what that other, can you fill in the blank what that word is? Badass. No kidding. More often than not, this is the word people use when they find out what I did. And that's fun for a few minutes and all, but let's just bring this back down to reality here, because there are also probably some of you out there thinking to yourself, as I described what I did, well, that sounds awesome, but I could never do that. And instantly, there's a barrier between us. We can no longer relate to each other. But it's really important to me that we tear that barrier down. Because just because society labeled me in a job as badass, I am honestly just like you, just a human. I have the same roles you do: parent, spouse, sibling, friend. I do the same things you do. I cook, I clean, do laundry. I drive my kids around everywhere in a minivan. That's not so badass. Oh, and I even have the same struggles that you do. So I'm going to be very transparent with you and share with you some of the struggles that I've had over my life. And many of them I honestly still struggle with today. So here we go. Lack of confidence, fear of failure, fitting in, speaking up. Can anyone relate to any of these things? Perfectionism? Yeah, all these things. So how is it that I could struggle with all of these things and yet still be successful at a job that society labels as badass? The answer? Mindset. Hands down, foundationally, mindset. And our mindset is not fixed. It is something we can change. And one of the best ways to do that is to use the tools and techniques found in mental performance training. Now, Dr. Michael Gervais, a world-renowned sport and performance psychologist, says that there's 3 things we can train: our mind, our body, and our craft. Now, I'm going to call our craft our skill set, and I'm going to start with that. We can train our skill set. A lot of us do that. We spend a lot of time training our skill set. And our bodies, we work out, we sleep, we eat, or maybe we don't do that, but we at least intellectually understand the importance of it. But what many people don't understand is that we need to independently train our mind. And elite athletes are learning that this is the one thing that can really set them apart from everyone else. But here's the thing. This content is not limited to elite athletes. They may be spending a lot of time and money investing into it, but they're not the only ones that can benefit from it. All of us can benefit from it. So if we want to be the absolute best at whatever it is we do, why wouldn't we do the same thing? And this is the other really cool thing about it, is that mental performance training, it's really good for your mental health. So let's look at a spectrum here. I'm going to share this with you. You can see on the left side that it has mental health crisis. On the right side, you have optimal mind. I should go the other way. In the middle, you have mental health support. Now that looks pretty fair, right? Okay, so let's shift this mentally into a medical health spectrum. So on the left side, you have critically ill. On the right side, you have, left side, anyways, okay. So on the other side, you have perfectly healthy. In the middle, go to the doctor, right? But is that truly what it looks like? It's not. Do you go running to the doctor every time you're not perfectly healthy? No, you don't. There's other things that you do. You rest, you take ibuprofen, you ice. I don't know. Sometimes we do go to the doctor right away, but more often than not, we don't. So what does that mean? That means if we shift this back into the mental health model, that we have a gap here. And when I was speaking to the Long Beach Police Department a couple of years ago, they said to me, "Hey, Tammy, we have really robust mental health support. But sometimes, we can be on the phone with the psychologist within 3 minutes." And I was so grateful to hear that. They said, sometimes we don't quite need that level of support yet, but we're not optimal mind either. We don't have tools for that space. And that's where mental performance training comes in. And if you utilize the tools and techniques found inside of mental performance training, you can stay on this side of the spectrum more. Now, sometimes we need a doctor, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if we can stay on this right side of the spectrum more, that's all the better. Now, before we continue on with the presentation, I'm going to ask all of you to do one thing. If you could think right now, just write down real quick the name of the person that you talk to and listen to the most. If you're tossing between a couple of people, don't worry, just pick one. For the purposes of this exercise, it will work. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share with you 3 stories, and each of them will have a lesson associated with them. But don't worry, it will be very clear when I get to the lesson. So what I want you to do is I want you to just sit back, relax, and listen. 20 years ago, I am almost done with fighter jet training in the A-10 Warthog when I'm handed a piece of paper, shut in a room with 8 guys, and told, "You stay in there until you figure this out." Now, I don't need to be quite so dramatic. Those 8 guys, they were just my classmates. But that piece of paper, it mattered. On it, it listed 9 locations from around the globe. It was where we would go for our first ever fighter squadron. It was listing all the locations for our class. Some of the locations, they were awesome. Some locations, not so awesome. And we had to decide amongst ourselves who was going to get to go to what location. So what do? It's simple. You just play a game of chance and you roll some dice, of course. Isn't that what you would do to figure out where you're going to go live next? I hope not, but it is literally what we did. And I rolled Korea. A few months later, I am in Korea, finally scheduled to fly. At this point, it has been over 3 months since I've flown the A-10, and naturally, I'm a little bit anxious. But I am so excited to finally be getting back up in the air. Now, one interesting fact about the A-10 is, like I said, it's a single-seat aircraft. But there are no two-seat training models, which means the first time you fly it, every time you fly it, you're solo. The flight brief goes long, standard, but that doesn't mean I'm given any extra time to meet the scheduled takeoff time. So now I need to rush. And I hate rushing because rushing leads to broken habit patterns, which can lead to switch errors, which, as we know in the aviation world, can be deadly. We run out to our jets, check them over, get in, and take off. Takeoff and departure are smooth and uneventful. But soon, I'm scanning my gauges, and I notice that my oil pressure is jumping around. Not normal. So I hop on the radio and I tell my flight lead that my oil pressure is acting strange and that the gauge is all over the place. He simply replies, "Copy that. Keep an eye on it." Okay. Well, I did keep an eye on it. Such a close eye, in fact, that even before I got a light on my caution panel telling me that I did, in fact, have a serious problem with my oil system, I was back on the radio telling my flight lead that I need to shut this engine down. I can hear the tension in his voice because now he knows there is a serious problem. But I'm calm and confident. There's a procedure for this emergency. I know it and have practiced it in training. I am not letting myself become circumstance focused and sucked inside the problem. And I shift my perspective back to the big picture. How? Well, I do 2 things. The first thing I do is I change my mission. My mission is no longer to go out and practice maneuvers in the jet. It is simply one thing and one thing only, to land this plane safely. Now, the second thing I do is I apply a technique I learned very early on in pilot training, and many of you probably know it. In fact, this technique is so simple that I thought, why are we even memorizing this? Wouldn't we just do this anyways? Aviate, navigate, communicate, in that order. Aviate, fly the plane. Ensure I'm flying at a safe airspeed. I'm not going to hit the ground, anything attached to the ground, or another aircraft. Only when that is done, I move on to navigate. Okay, where am I going to go? Where's the best place to land, and how can I get there the fastest and point my nose that direction? Last, communicate. As pilots, we know that things don't always go as planned, and maintaining the proper mindset requires that we be psychologically agile, able to shift focus when circumstances dictate. I open up my checklist, and step by step, I apply the procedures, talking my flight lead through everything I'm doing as I do it. I'm taking the left engine, and I'm pulling it back to idle. I'm taking the left engine, and I'm shutting it down. As a former flight instructor in a different aircraft, I can only imagine how helpless he must feel. With a brand new wingman on his wing, who hadn't flown in literally months, handling one of the more threatening emergencies you could have in the jet, and not being able to do anything about it, but pretty much watch. Well, now I'm flying on just one engine, and I need to find a place to land. Kuinsan Air Base is closer than my home base of Osan, so we head that direction. I need to be smooth on the controls and watch the airspeed like a hawk. It is vital that I fly smooth enough and fast enough on just this one engine to keep the jet in the air. And during landing phase, when thrust on the engine changes, I need to control the yaw. I know many of you know what yaw is, but if you don't, yawing is essentially one wing, flying more forward than the other. Hence, the aircraft gets slightly canted. If proper rudder pedals are not used to control this yaw, the aircraft can depart controlled flight and spin right into the ground. I maneuver the aircraft carefully and skillfully, and I land safely on the runway at Kuinsan Air Base. Later that afternoon, our maintenance team drives down to check the jet over and figure out what happened. And they discover that I had a faulty oil valve. No switch error for this pilot today, just a bad valve that was leaking out all my oil. And late the following afternoon, they get the jet fixed, I hop in it, and fly it back to Osan, where I'm greeted by the bros in the squadron with handshakes and even hugs and comments like, awesome job. The last pilot to get into that situation crashed the jet. Now, shutting down an engine in flight is considered a major emergency. Yet everything in that story was fairly smooth and uneventful. Don't you think? Almost boring. How can something that is considered a major emergency be seen as smooth and uneventful? The answer? The proper mindset. More often than not, when there's a problem, we become circumstance focused, completely sucked into the problem, forgetting the big picture, which can significantly decrease our overall effectiveness or make us completely ineffective and essentially frozen. So here's my first lesson. Preparation. Preparation is key. Do you think I got in the jet that day expecting to shut down an engine? No, I did not expect that, but I had prepared for it. In military flying, we brief the planned mission thoroughly, but we also always cover contingencies, or the most likely what-if scenarios. Like, what if I have to shut an engine down in flight? What if I have to eject into enemy territory? What if weather rolls in over the target area? But you don't need to be in a physically high-stakes profession in order to prepare for the unexpected. Think about it. Are you truly prepared for the what-ifs in your life? Have you thought through and planned in detail, step by step, as if it's actually happening all the way through to the end, to include how you want to think, feel, and respond in those circumstances? Have you done that? Well, how do you know what these what-ifs are? Well, that's fairly simple. They're the things that keep you up at night, going, what if this happens? What am I going to do? Again, have you actually planned through all the way through in detail to include how you think, feel, and respond? Or are you just sitting there hoping it doesn't happen? Because hope, it's a powerful thing and we need it. But hope, it's not a plan. When we fail to prepare for the most likely what-if circumstances, we can very easily become circumstance-focused and consumed inside the problem, which can stall or stop progress. Do you think that I was grateful that the military required me to plan and train for the unexpected? Truth? Not at first. As a young pilot in my early 20s, I really didn't understand why we were spending so much time on all these emergencies when they probably weren't even going to happen, and I couldn't even land the plane yet. Didn't make sense to me. But I am oh so grateful for the wisdom of the Air Force to train me that way. Never underestimate the power of preparation, especially when it comes to mindset. Story number 2. When I was 11 years into my aviation career, I had one of those moments that was so shocking to me that I remember exactly where I was and exactly what I was thinking. Due to an aircraft injury requiring cervical spine reconstruction, I am now flying the MQ-1 Predator, a remotely piloted aircraft, or RPA, often referred to by my least favorite term, drone. I am 5 months pregnant with baby number 2, driving home from work when my cell phone rings. I look down and see that it's my squadron commander and decide I should probably pull over and take this call. He doesn't normally call me. Well, come to find out, he wants to know if I would be interested in attending U.S. Air Force Weapons School in 7 months. I look down at my soccer ball-shaped belly, quite literally, and I almost instantly say, F no. Now, for someone who rarely swears, with the exception of badass, that says a lot about this scenario. I completely was in shock. Now, but to give you some understanding, weapons school is known as one of the most elite training programs in the military. where some of the most gifted warriors of the sky are hand-selected for this PhD level program, where they learn the art of the most integrated combat. It is the US Air Force's Top Gun program. Maybe you've been in a similar situation. Maybe at some point you were asked to apply for a job that you didn't think you had the credentials for, or lead a project that you didn't think you had the experience for. That is exactly how I am feeling in this moment. I drive home in utter disbelief. Me? Weapon school? I hardly think I'm weapon school material. Wait, hold on. I'm going to address something really quick because usually somebody out in the audience is already thinking this, and I don't want you distracted by it. You're thinking to yourself that this particular story, it doesn't make any sense. A fighter pilot lacking confidence? Who has heard of such a thing? Maverick would never act like this. Well, not all fighter pilots live up to this stereotype. And even if they do, they likely still suffer from imposter syndrome from time to time. According to Dr. Valerie Young, an expert on imposter syndrome, you might suffer from it if you attribute any or all of your success at any point to luck, good timing, or the ability to deceive others. It's really common, even amongst really successful people. There's just not a lot of talk about it because oftentimes people feel like they're the only one, or there's something wrong with them if they feel like that. And people also tend to believe that as they gain experience and climb the ladder, it's going to decrease. I would actually argue the opposite. Because as you climb the ladder, there's less positions available and more opportunity for you to think, how did I get here? Have you ever felt like an imposter? Maybe you attribute your acceptance into a prestigious university as lucky. Or at some point, you feel you got the job you landed because of knowing someone or good timing. Well, if that's the case, you have experienced some imposter syndrome. And this is the very foundation of my, I can't do this mentality. The battle within is on. But thankfully, I'm prepared. Imposter syndrome is a known enemy of mine. And if I'm going to maintain the proper mindset, I must defeat it. First step, and it's usually small steps to overcome large objectives. First step, ensure that my emotions don't take control based on an inaccurate picture. I'll start with logic. That's usually really helpful. Okay, so I run through this scenario in my head. The training starts in July, and it starts in July. Okay, so that means I'm going to have an 18-month-old and a 3-month-old. Okay, I'm just going to keep going here. Okay, it starts in July, it ends in December. That's about 6 months. I don't really think my husband is going to be okay with me leaving him behind for 6 months with such small children, just 3 months and 18 months old. No, I can't do it. Because what kind of mom would even do that? I can't do it. I can't. Logic is not defeating this enemy. I have become completely circumstance focused, and this challenge appears impossible, like a wall I could never get over. So what is my second lesson? We must recognize and battle the enemies within. We must be emotionally wise, being aware of our own self-sabotaging thoughts and processing through our emotions in a productive way, not just pushing them aside and ignoring them. You know, like the little kid in the scary movie who the bad guy comes in the room, he covers his eyes and he thinks, he can't see me, and you're like, what? That doesn't work. Well, you know what? It doesn't work here either. We have to recognize and battle what's happening within us, or that can build and it can take over. Now, there's a little bit more to the story that I need you to hear. Later that night, I went home to tell my husband about this ridiculous opportunity that has been presented to me. And he just looks at me and he says, you have to go. You have to go. You can't turn down an opportunity like this. And I was like, what? How are we going to make that work? And he just said, we'll figure it out. We will figure it out. He had the right mindset. He saw the big picture for my career. And although that absolutely is something I want you to walk away with today, it's what we're talking about, there is something else hidden inside that I need you to see. He believed in me. And if it hadn't been for his, not his, instantaneous, without a doubt, you can do this mentality, I would have never even considered applying for weapons school. All I saw was a huge barrier. He pointed out that there was a way over it. It would be difficult, but together we could do it. Now, society is constantly preaching at us that we need to be strong and independent and do things on our own. And I 100% agree, but not all the time. We are social beings. We are meant to be connected and help each other. And I don't know about you, but I love helping people. Another weapon for you to defeat the enemies within is the support of others. Now, it is true that you are the only one who can actually battle those enemies that live inside of you. But here's the thing. You might be holding a tiny little knife in this battle, and those who love and care about you, they can hand you a sword. If you are struggling to believe in yourself, and it happens to all of us, lean on those you trust who believe in you. They can help shift your focus away from these challenging circumstances and help you see the big picture. I did apply for weapons school, and I got accepted. So lesson number 2, recognize and battle those enemies within. Now for our final story. During the months leading up to weapons school, my pregnant belly grows bigger and bigger. My 1-year-old daughter, she starts to walk. I am preparing to leave my family for 6 months, and I'm still remotely flying combat missions in both Iraq and Afghanistan on the overnight shift as the chief instructor pilot in the squadron. I had a lot going on. I could have easily waved the white flag and said, wait, I have no idea what I was thinking. This is not such a good idea. But I didn't. Why? Because I had already decided back here. Decision-making is a phase that happens when you're calm, cool, and collected, and you have all the information, and then you shut the door. You don't change your mind when you get all emotional and scared. I had already decided that this was something I could and would do. And once I set my mind on something, bring it. There's no stopping me. In fact, after I'd already been officially accepted into weapons school, deep into the preparation, as well as now 9 months pregnant, I get called into the deputy commander's office. I'm assuming it's another conversation about weapons school, and I'm right, it is. But soon I start to notice that he's shifting in his chair, not maintaining eye contact. And I think to myself, well, what is going on? We have these conversations all the time. I mean, it's not like oh, yes. This ginormous belly seems to be making a lot of people really uncomfortable here at this full-term stage of the game. So I just continue to listen, and he continues to talk, and then suddenly it is crystal clear why he's so uncomfortable. He says to me, "Oh, we didn't understand the caliber and intensity of weapons school when we asked you to apply. And given your current circumstances, we don't think it's in the best interest of the squadron to send you." I am literally speechless for several moments, while at the same time, my mind begins to race. And I think to myself, is he kidding me? They knew I was pregnant when they asked me to apply. Do they not understand how this whole pregnancy thing works? This is unacceptable. I take a deep breath, and without much concern for what he might think, I say, with all due respect, sir, I applied, I got accepted, I'm going. Do you think that I walked out of his office that day as confident on the inside as I sounded on the outside? Absolutely not. This shocking new perspective about my ability to succeed absolutely rattled my confidence and made me question the decision to continue up this extremely challenging path. Maybe you've been in my shoes. Maybe at some point you were put in charge of a huge project you're really excited about, and then just before it kicks off, your boss suggests that somebody else takes the lead. Or maybe it brings back memories of a trek ride that your flight instructor said you're ready for, but then just before you're about to go, like, well, I don't think you're quite ready. You had been so excited, but then all these doubts just come flooding on in. Oh, and believe me, I had those doubts too. I am not immune to the thoughts. It's what you do with the thoughts that counts. I'm going to say that again. I am not immune to the thoughts. It is what you do with the thoughts that counts. I had already decided back here. Again, decision-making is a phase. Calm, cool, and collected, make the decision, shut the door. I had already decided this is something I could and would do. And I wasn't going to let somebody else's insecurities about my ability to succeed throw me back into the doubting phase when I had already hashed that out. I choose to keep a perseverance mindset. I show up at weapons school knowing that my own leadership now doubts my ability to succeed. And they were not the only ones. You should have seen the looks on some of the weapons school instructors' faces when they found out that I just had a baby 3 months prior. Some of them were also questioning my ability to succeed, while others, they were questioning me as a mother. But that's a whole nother speech topic. I know that the odds are stacked against me, but I also know how to work really, really hard. But that is not enough. You have to work smarter too. If you just grind it out, eventually you will burn out with anything. So how do I work smarter? I know, something that stops me in my tracks more often than not, and I hate it about myself, is worrying about what other people think. But it's not like there's a switch that you can just turn off, like, I'm gonna stop worrying about what they think. Oh, switch it on and off. It doesn't work like that. So I make a decision. Small step, remember, small steps to overcome large challenges. I make a decision, I make a pact with myself that if at any point during training, despite what I've done in the past, I am going to raise my hand and ask the question if I have any questions at all. Oh man, the first time I had a question, I thought to myself, well, here I go, about to show everybody how much I don't know. But I did it anyways. And I kept doing it, and I kept doing it. You get the idea. Because I decided back here I wasn't going to go back. That decision was done. You know what's so funny? Not only did I think I was going to get labeled that person in the class who really didn't belong there, but I also thought I was going to get that label, the person who asked so many questions I make class go long every day, the one nobody likes. Neither of those things happened. Almost every day after class, somebody came up to me, and almost under their breath, they'd say, I'm so glad you asked that question. I was wondering the same thing. I didn't let my fear and self-doubt stop me. I chose to keep a perseverance mindset. So here comes lesson number 3. Get in the zone. Focus forward. Weapons school, hands down, was one of the most difficult things I have ever done in my entire life. And did I ever want to quit? Oh yeah. That would have been the quickest way to lighten my load and make life easier. I told you I'm not immune to the thoughts. It's what you do with the thoughts that counts. I refused to let quitting be an option. I decided back here, I'm not quitting. Now that we're talking about quitting, I want to bring something up. Because oftentimes people have this idea that if they set a goal based on their own personal core values, and if you don't know what your personal core values are, go find a book, a quick book to read, figure it out. It makes a difference in your path forward. But anyways, if people set a goal based on their own personal core values, they set themselves down the path, nothing major has changed, and the challenges exceed their expectations, they take that as a sign they made the wrong decision and they're on the wrong path. It is a sign, I agree. If you set a goal based on your own personal core values, you set yourself down the path, nothing major has changed, and the challenges exceed your expectations, and they almost always will if it's worth it. It's a sign. It is a sign you're on the right path, the path of growth. In weapons school, I refused to quit. And this is the point in my life where I developed my philosophy of I will fail out before I bail out. But there's more to it. There's a little more to having that philosophy. The no quit mentality is a start. We're going to do a brief exercise here. It's not actually being interactive, but I want you to take a look at this. Look at this slide right now. I want you to look at it and I want you to focus, find as many red things as you can. Okay. Now, if we were live, I'd call on someone. And this is the question I would ask them. I mean, we are live, in person, sorry. I would ask them, list off as many yellow things as you can. What? You just told us to look for red. Yeah, I did. So you were looking for red. Your brain is looking for red. It's filtering everything else out. Why does this matter right now? It matters because that's how our brain works. There is too much data in the world coming at us all the time. So we have to it uses a filtering system. It's called the reticular activating system. Now this system bases what it filters in on what you believe about yourself. So if you think to yourself, oh, I don't land well, I can't land well, guess what your brain's gonna start collecting? All the data points that validate that you in fact can't land a plane, or you can't land it well. But what if you tell yourself you can land it well? It's going to start picking up those places where you have successes. It's going to filter in the things you believe about yourself. So I had a no quit mentality and I believed that I could. Now, initially that belief was from my squadron who asked me to go. They changed their mind, but initially from my squadron and then my husband. And that's a good launching point for the belief in yourself, but eventually you have to shift it to you owning it. So you have to have a no quit mentality and believe you can. And I did graduate from weapons school. And my family, they were right by my side when I did. I think they just woke up from a nap. But you know, you have to get the photo, right? And they stayed by my side as we added one. And I went back into the T-38 high and G environment. And they stayed by my side. And they're still by my side today in retirement. So let us put this all together. All right. Next time you feel like bailing out or quitting, whether it's actually quitting something or just mentally checking out, before you do that, instead of reaching down for that ejection handle to bail out, I simply want you to reach for one of these. What this is, it's a Pez dispenser. But what on earth does a Pez dispenser have to do with keeping a perseverance mindset? Well, you know, there's no acronyms in aviation, right? We could use a few more. Well, why do we have acronyms? Because they help us remember things. So I'm going to give you an acronym today, because I doubt you have an acronym on how to keep a perseverance mindset. And my acronym, if you haven't figured it out, it's PEZ. All right, so P, prepare. Prepare for both the expected and the unexpected. Preparing for the expected, that's average. Preparing for the unexpected, that's above average. Including how you want to think, feel, and respond during those challenges, that's elite. That's where you're going to make your money. Now, some people will say to me, well, Tammy, I can't prepare for everything. I get it. You can't. You would never get anywhere if you did that. But you shouldn't prepare for nothing. So pick one or two of the most likely what-if scenarios and continue doing this over time, and you will build up an arsenal of ways to defeat those challenges headed your way, including how you want to think, feel, and respond during the challenges. And even if those particular challenges never come your way, and I hope they don't, you will be more mentally prepared to handle any challenge that comes your way, because you have included how you want to think, feel, and respond. So prepare. Next, recognize and battle those enemies within. If we don't process through our thoughts and our emotions, they don't go away. They can build and they can take over. Now, how do you do this? Well, for me, find somewhere comfortable. Like when I had a big failure, I would come home and that's when I would do this. I would just let it out. Now, I'll be honest with you. While I'm letting it out, my brain is like, oh my gosh, Tammy, you don't have time to do this. Get back in the books, But based on the presentation so far, how many of you think I wasn't prepared? I was prepared. So I needed to let this emotion out. Now, how you do that is different for everybody. Maybe you talk to somebody, maybe you journal, maybe you work out, maybe you cry, maybe you punch something, not someone, but find your way to process it. If you were going to go run a race to win, you would not run with a weight vest on. So take that emotion, that weight of that emotion, those thoughts off. I promise you, you will progress more effectively and efficiently through the challenge. And lean on those you trust to help you through it. Last, get in the zone. Focus forward. And this is where I think a lot of people lose their way. We think a lot about physical energy, but we don't really think about our thought energy. You know those moments when it's at the end of the day, somebody says, hey, let's go out to eat. And they're like, where do you want to go? And you're like, I don't know, you just choose. Your thought energy is gone at that point. We have to protect that. And you absolutely must protect it. So when you have enough when you come upon a challenge, especially during the challenge, because this is often what happens. Think of your thought energy as a bucket. You want to keep that full. When a challenge comes, you have to use it for the challenge. A lot of people end up wasting it with thoughts like, should I quit? What would it look like if I quit? What if I fail? What are people going to think? And they're draining their energy and actually creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, I told you, I have the thoughts too. I expect that they will come. And I recognize, dismiss, protect that thought energy so you can get through the challenge. Run towards failure. I know that it looks like you're going to fall off a cliff, but I promise you, more often than not, there is a sharp turn and the view is beautiful. Don't give up. Fail out before you bail out. Now, before we wrap up, I'm going to ask everyone to do one thing. If you can see yourself in a video camera in your screen right now, I want you to use that. But if you can't, and you have your smartphone nearby, I want you to grab that, put it on camera mode, and put it on selfie mode. This might feel a little awkward, but if it does, it's telling you something. This is what we're going to do. I want everyone to look at themselves in the camera. Does the face staring back at you match the name that you wrote down earlier today? For some of you, I know it does. There's always a few people that write their own name down at this point. But for many of you, I know it does not. Because oftentimes we fail to recognize that the person we talk to and listen to the most, the one who shapes our confidence, our decisions, our future, is us. Now, one more time, take a look at yourself. Is that the face of someone who is in command of their own mind? Or of someone being dragged along by their thoughts, reacting to whatever pops up, letting fear, doubt, and distraction take the controls? Because here's the bottom line. You get to choose. You get to choose. All day, every day, you are shaping your own reality by what you choose to focus on. You are the voice that influences whether you will push forward or pull back, whether you will rise up or retreat, whether you will persevere or let the obstacles win. You see, persevering isn't about being naturally tough. It is about preparing to be tough, training yourself to keep going when every ounce of motivation is gone. Your mind is yours to train. Just like a pilot trains for emergencies, an athlete trains for competition. And the way you prepare mentally will determine how you perform when it matters most. My success as a badass fighter pilot was not due to extreme intelligence, exceptional performance, or sheer luck. It was absolutely hands down due to mindset. So right now, in this moment, I am asking you to make a decision. Will you choose to let your mind run on autopilot? Or will you choose to take command of the most powerful system you possess? Take command. Your mindset mission starts now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tammy. Amazing presentation. We do have a Q&A chat for our live Zoom participants. I've got one question for you. It's what's your go-to strategy for regaining focus under pressure, especially when things don't go according to plan?
Oh yes, that's a good one. I'm just going to throw these QR codes in there in case people don't have their camera. Okay, that's a great question, and I'll answer that with there's a longer answer that I teach in my course, but here's the short answer. When we are doing that, typically what's happening in our mind, we're going. Sometimes we're going, what if this happens? But a lot of times we're going, I can't believe that just happened. Oh my gosh, and you're stuck back, like you're literally stuck back wherever that mistake just was. And you can't seem to bring yourself to where you are right now. Or you had this mistake and you're going, what if that happens again? The problem is we need to be in the present moment. And so the question is, how do you get there, right? Because a lot of people, we know what we need to do, but people aren't taught how. Well, one of the quickest ways is to actually either say it in your brain or actually say it out loud. Say, what now? It forces your brain to go like, what now? Where am I at? What now? What do I need to do now? Say it as many times as you want. So that's the quickest way. The other way I would say is, this is where the mindset training comes in. A basketball player isn't going to go try a new skill without practicing it. They're not going to go on the court and practice it or do it without practicing it. So when it comes to your mind, you want to train your mind to be under your control. So there's tools and techniques you can use. And if you want to, you can, take my course, great, but just go out and look up mental performance training techniques on your own. That's fine too. You can find tools to help you like practice controlling your mind and bringing it to the moment. Because the more you practice on the ground, for those that are pilots, or even if it's not aviation, it could be anything that's stressing you out. Practice bringing yourself to the moment, the present moment. That's the best way to do it.
Great answer. Thank you so much, Tammy. And I am not seeing any other questions coming through yet. So Anthony, do you want to go ahead and pop in and yes, and talk about our featured topics from the Stratus side?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Give me 1 second here. Let me share my screen. I just have a couple of slides here. Um, a great presentation, Tammy. Thank you so much. That was amazing.
Thank you. You're welcome.
And I've got my slides here. I think they're showing now. As always, would like to invite everyone, if you have not registered for Aero Summit yet, to attend. We'll be there May 21st and 22nd, and then AeroQuest will be May 23rd. If you are a member of NAFI, it's $50 CFI ticket, and we still have a couple complimentary flight school student tickets available. I think we're at 300 attendees at this point, so much larger than we even thought we'd hit for our first conference. So very excited about it, and hopefully you guys can take advantage of the networking, as well as just being a part of the community, something we're passionate about building here at Stratus. So hopefully you guys can make it, and if you have any questions, of course, send us an email or contact us. Happy to help as we can. And then also, I have one more slide. There it is. We still have scholarships available to give. We have a $10,000 scholarship. There's an application portal open now in the student resources section of our site, or scan the QR code, and we would love to take a look at your application, and looking forward to reward $10,000 to one deserving student. So good luck, guys, and hopefully, if you're interested, this is free money for you. Apply for it. That's best. If I can't emphasize that enough, if you need $10,000, I do. I think we all do. Apply for it, guys. Please do. That's all I've got. Anne Marie, anything else on your end?
I think that's all for me. Thank you guys for presenting for us, and thank you to all of our live attendees. We'll be sending out all of those relevant links at the end of the presentation. So I think that's all.
I love it. Wonderful. Thanks, everybody. Well, I hope you have a good one and see you guys next month on another Mentorship Mondays. Otherwise, have a great month. Take care.
Thanks, Tammy. Bye,
Thank you.
guys.